I get why The Final Girls might look like a slasher parody at first. You have Camp Bloodbath, which is the slasher movie within a movie. You have Billy Murphy stomping around the woods with a machete. You have counselors making choices so bad that they almost feel contractually required. You have a slow motion scene where slow motion stops being editing and suddenly becomes everybody's problem. So yeah, the movie is funny. It knows exactly what kind of horror movie it is playing with. Then Max sees Nancy and suddenly we're not watching it the same way anymore. Hi, I'm Brandy, otherwise known as the Terrific Lady, and welcome back to Retro Horror School, where we discuss, dissect, and analyze horror from the 1970s through the 2010s, and talk about horror like it matters, because it does. And today we're talking about an indie horror gem called The Final Girls, and the fact that it's a sad little horror movie in between all the meta-slasher stuff and the fun parts. If you're new here, or if you've been here a while, and want a clean entry point, I have a Start Here playlist so you can see the roadmap and how we analyze horror here at Retro Horror School.
Oh, hi. I'm Nancy. What's your name?
Max's mom, Amanda, is gone before the real horror movie nonsense even starts. Amanda was an actress, and one of the few pieces that Max has left of her, besides a home movie that you see her watching, is something called Camp Bloodbath. This cheesy old slasher where Amanda played Nancy. I keep thinking about how strange that would be, having someone you love preserved in that way. In a full movie where other people can watch them, judge their performance, make jokes about the role, and talk about the movie like it's just a movie. For everyone else, Nancy is just a character. For Max, that is her mother's face. Then she gets pulled into the film and Nancy is standing there, not a recording, not her mother either. Something worse maybe, because it's close enough to make Max hope. And that close enough thing is pretty rough. Pictures help after someone you love passes away. Videos help too, until they don't. You can replay their voice, look at their smile, catch some little tiny gesture that you forgot, and then the clip ends. The person never says anything new. Nancy says new things. She reacts to Max and has conversations with her. She could be protected, maybe. Saved, maybe. Taken out into the real world, maybe. Grief loves that word. Maybe. Maybe I can fix this version. Maybe this time I'll say the right thing. Maybe the universe left a loophole somewhere. Max latches onto that, and I don't blame her at all. Logic can take a seat for a minute. If someone you lost was suddenly in front of you, even in the wrong story, they have the wrong name, you'd still reach for them because of course you would. Camp Bloodbath is such a good fake slasher name. It sounds exactly like something you would find on a dusty VHS shelf and go, oh my god, this is going to be either really perfect or really terrible, or both. The movie within the movie has all the stuff that you would expect from an 80s camp slasher. The legend of the killer, the counselors, the cabins in the woods, the masked guy who walks around everywhere, never runs, and is somehow always able to catch up with you. Billy Murphy is very much in that Jason Voorhees zone. Mask, machete, tragic backstory, weird attachment to the camp, refuses to stay dead. He's not subtle and he doesn't need to be. And the rules are just as familiar. Sex equals death. Virginity is survival armor. When Max and her friends get pulled into the movie within a movie, they try and stay out of the way at first, which is a completely reasonable plan. It's what I would try and do. But then the movie pulls them into flashbacks and loops to where they can't leave. Slow motion actually slows you down. The fake film starts acting like a place with rules you can touch, and I love that. In a that is such a horror nerd idea and I love it kind of way. Someone really looked at those old dramatic slasher shots and was like, what if you could not escape the editing? That is exactly the kind of meta joke that I like, because the trope becomes a problem in the room with them. The comedy works best when it does that. And Max keeps pulling back the movie to something real. She's not reacting to Camp Bloodbath like Duncan, the horror superfan. She's looking at Nancy, and every joke around her has to compete with that face. That's a hard shift for a horror comedy to pull off, because a lot of them get nervous around sincerity. They'll get close to an emotional moment, panic, throw in a joke, and run away. The Final Girls doesn't run from Max. Nancy volunteering to be the final girl hits hard. The scene could have been played as a joke. Sweet, innocent Nancy trying to step into the role of the final girl because the rules say she can. Vicky snaps at her, everyone's stressed. A very easy setup for a comedy, and then Nancy cries. And she feels like somebody who's been stuck in a tiny role for a very long time. The nice girl, the sweet girl. After that scene, Nancy feels like someone who has been stuck inside a version of herself who never got much room. Someone who thinks she's a total zero. That complicates things in a way that I really like. The final girl part gets messy in a good way. So as briefly mentioned, Nancy fits the old school rulebook for final girls. She didn't sleep with Kurt once Max intervened. She's sweet, she's aware enough once she understands what's happening. She can be the one who survives under Camp Bloodbath logic. Max fits too, just differently. She isn't the shy final girl type, at least not to me. She's smart. She's brave, even though she's scared. She thinks fast. She keeps moving with this giant emotional bruise that's just lying under the surface. For a little while, the role sort of hangs between them, and then Nancy gives it to Max. That wording feels right to me, not Max winning it like a trophy or a certificate. Nancy gives this to her. Take this. Keep going, live after me. That shouldn't hit me in the feels as hard as it does, but it does. And I need to talk about the use of Bette Davis Eyes in this movie, because apparently this song has been weaponized to use against people personally. I hear it in this movie and I'm done. Some songs attach themselves to people, and then years later you're minding your own business, you're driving, you're going grocery shopping, you're doing something completely normal, and then that song comes on and your whole day has been completely hijacked. For Max, that song is Amanda in a way that music gets tied to memory. The opening already plants it. Max and Amanda in the car, that one little piece of normal that happens before everything falls apart. Later on in the end, when the song comes back, I don't need to explain why it hurts. Max's face does the work, as does the song. The PG-13 rating annoys me because I both understand the complaint, but I still land somewhere else. A lot of horror fans wanted more blood and gore in this movie, and fair. An 80s slasher setup without much gore is going to feel strange to some people. Camp, machete, body count, you hear those words and expect something messier. And I usually, when I'm watching anything that's a slasher, I want the messy version. With the Final Girls, I don't miss it as much as I expected. The kills being nastier might have pulled my attention toward the gore, and I don't want that here. I want to keep watching Max and Nancy. I want the camp slasher stuff without it taking over the whole room. The director, Todd Strauss-Schulson, said that he fought the PG-13 rating at first, then came around to feeling like less blood and sex helped the sweeter side of the film, and I agree with him. This movie doesn't feel like it's ashamed of horror, and it doesn't feel like it's standing on a pedestal looking its nose down at horror and at slashers. It loves horror. And especially it likes slashers because it knows how goofy they can be. It knows how fun the rules are when you start pulling at them. The horror clothing of this movie fits. Underneath all the camp stuff, Max is trying to do something impossible. She wants to take the version of her mother that still exists and bring her home. Home from a movie, a role, home from death, even though nobody says it bluntly.
You have to let me go.
Near the end, Nancy tells Max, "I'm not lost. You'll always know where to find me." but you have to let me go. A different movie can make that line feel like a sympathy grenade lobbed into the audience, but I cry every time I watch it. Max looks like she's being asked to lose her mom again. Nancy looks like she knows she can't be Amanda, only the closest possible thing in that situation. That's painful enough, no extra decoration needed. Max wanted a rescue mission, Nancy turns it into a horror movie goodbye. The only kind of goodbye that's available. After that, yes, Max still has to face Billy Murphy, because the final girl business still needs to be handled. By then, Billy feels less scary to me than Max walking out without Nancy. The killer is the subgenre problem. Leaving is a personal one. Max survives both, just not in the same way. That's what I want people to know before they dismiss The Final Girls as just a cute little PG-13 meta-slasher. Billy Murphy has big, we have Jason at home energy. The slow motion scene rules. But the things I remember is Max looking over at Nancy like the movie accidentally gave her mother back for a few minutes. I remember Bette Davis Eyes. I remember Nancy crying. I remember that horrible little feeling of almost getting that person back, then having to leave the screen anyway. That's the part I wasn't warned about, that a horror comedy got me with grief. Rude, but very effective. If you skipped it because it's PG-13, give it a chance. You might wish it had more blood and gore, and I get that. For me, the lack of gore leaves more room for Max and Nancy. I still love a nasty practical effect when it belongs there. Here, though, I don't think more blood would have made the movie better. I think it would just pull attention away from the tender parts. Thank you so much for watching this movie and my breakdown and analysis of it. I would like to know if you have seen The Final Girls, or if you haven't and this video spoiled it for you but you want to watch the movie anyway, leave that in the comments below. And be sure to like and subscribe and share this video, because all of that really helps out the channel. I'm doing some pretty casual analyses lately, but next time I hope to get back to the more longer form analyses. But until then, if you want to catch more of my longer form analyses, I will leave a link to a playlist to those at the end of this video. Now, as always, thank you so much for being here. Class is dismissed for now, but I will see you next time. Bye.